Why do Pokemon fans love Cynthia, the champion of Sinnoh, so much? I needed to find out. Because not only do Pokemon fans love Cynthia more than any other Pokemon champion, but she has enough cubic meters of fan art to sink a Wailord, and she only gets more popular every year. So after spending dozens of hours studying Cynthia across the Pokemon video games, anime, and manga, I discovered 4 ingredients that make up the Cynthia secret sauce. First, while everyone remembers Cynthia as the most powerful Pokemon champion, and it's obvious that Pokemon fans love powerful trainers, there are actually 2 kinds of powers that contribute to her popularity: perceived power and true power. Perceived power is how she's portrayed in the fandom and Pokemon lore. I mean, Pokemon fans talk about her champion battle in Diamond and Pearl as if it's something straight out of a legend. And on top of all the fan art discussions and game lore adding to her perceived power, the Pokemon anime in particular portrays Cynthia as a total badass. For example, when she debuts in the Diamond and Pearl anime series, she crushes her own Elite Four members one after the other to prove that she is the very best trainer in Sinnoh. The same Elite Four members who could all easily crush the show's main character, which sets up quite the power scale. Then, on top of saving Ash and his friends multiple times in Diamond and Pearl, Black and White, and Pokemon Journeys, Cynthia shows up to the World Coronation series as the second strongest trainer on the planet, and many fans would argue that she is actually the strongest. Basically, the in-universe lore and how she's discussed in the fandom makes Cynthia look like an absolute monster, which only adds to her popularity. But is she actually powerful? Well, perceived power is one thing, but when it comes to team composition and statistical evidence of her strength in the video games, aka her true power, first, it's a fact that her team in Diamond and Pearl simply isn't normal, or steel, or dragon, or water. Actually, it's a balanced team of fan favorites featuring Lucario, Spiritomb, Gastrodon, Roserade, Milotic, and Garchomp. Plus, she has extra Pokemon in the other games and the anime, including Togekiss, Electros, Braviary, Porygon Z, Como-O, and Glaceon. But the first thing you might notice about Cynthia's original squad in the Diamond and Pearl video games is how her Spiritomb has no weaknesses, since Fairy types didn't even exist in Generation 4, which gives Cynthia either a neutral matchup or an advantage over whichever Pokemon you start with. And Cynthia's Spiritomb taking out half of Ash's team in the Masters 8 tournament simply has to be a reference to just how annoying that thing is. And even crazier is her Garchomp, because not only is it a pseudo-legendary Pokemon so strong in the Diamond and Pearl era that the biggest competitive fan community banned it from the standard metagame, but somehow it can outspeed a lot of Pokemon who should be much faster, meaning that it can blitz players' teams before they even know what's happening. And that is where we get to the secret mathematical evidence behind Cynthia's true power. Because what isn't so obvious about Cynthia's team is that it has perfect IVs, which are basically hidden Pokemon stats that are kinda like genetics in the real world. Plus, she carefully maxes out her Pokemon skills in key areas by training their EVs, another stat that's kind of like getting gains by training specific body parts at the gym. The average player in 2006 didn't even know about IVs and EVs, which makes Cynthia's Garchomp seem as hacked as the computer characters from Mario Kart 64. Except that it actually does play by the rules. It's just that it's playing by the same rules as Michael Phelps or Yao Ming. But the craziest evidence of Cynthia's true power is a video made by Smith Plays Pokemon, where he uses a program to simulate over 1 million Pokemon battles between the trainers in every video game, with every possible matchup getting simulated 100 times. Guess what? The experiment reveals that Cynthia's final team in Pokemon Platinum really does make her the second strongest trainer in the entire series. And while power is just one of 4 ingredients that make Pokemon fans love Cynthia, this experiment makes me want a program to figure out other big questions, like the probability of winning the World Championships with the team of Diglets. I'm sure you'd also be interested in programming some simulations like this, and programming is actually such a useful skill. So before we break down ingredient number 2 of the Cynthia secret sauce, I've got good news. Today's video is brought to you by Boot.dev. Boot.dev's mission is to teach you programming, specifically back-end web development, through what's basically a super fun programming RPG with quests, levels, and achievements. Boot.dev also has leaderboards in case you want to get competitive, and they even do boss fights where the community gets together to get bonus experience for each lesson completed during the event. Now, the median salary for back-end developers in the US in 2022 was over $100,000 according to Stack Overflow. And not only is that a lot of money, but these jobs are usually remote or hybrid, which just gives you so much freedom. I mean, I say that as someone who has worked 100% remotely over the past 2.5 years and absolutely loves it. So with Boot.dev, you'll learn backend web development from start to finish in the Go and Python programming languages, in a self-paced way that feels like an RPG. And what's really awesome is how they get you hands-on, writing tons of code and completing real projects from day one. Plus, Boot.dev has a 30-day no questions asked refund policy, as well as a free demo of every course and its interactive features. So try it out by clicking the link in the description box and using my code CHADUSHADU for 25% off your first month, or even your first entire year if you choose the annual plan. And with that said, thanks to Boot.dev for sponsoring this video. So power is one thing, but the second ingredient that makes the Cynthia secret sauce so appealing to Pokemon fans is charm. And there are two parts to why Cynthia is such an attractive character. The first is that Cynthia isn't just attractive, she's scientifically attractive. Numerous scientific studies over the years reveal that across cultures, men strongly prefer tall, slim women with long, slender arms. Also, one study even uses eye tracking technology to show that aside from other obvious features, the male monkey brain tends to zero in on the female waist. And what do you know, Cynthia's iconic black coat and high heels make her look taller, thinner, and draw even more attention to her waist. Not to mention that she really stands out from other Pokemon characters thanks to her mature facial proportions and head-to-body ratio, and her badass Umbreon-style color scheme. Yes, Cynthia has a scientifically attractive character design, fans love it, and literally nobody was ready for Masters EX to fuel the fire with new outfits that could knock out a Bouffalon. However, physical attractiveness is only 49% of Cynthia's charm. See, the truth is there are a lot of other scientifically hot Pokemon characters out there, so it's actually Cynthia's non-physical characteristics that really set her apart from these characters. And there's a lot more to her non-physical appeal than just being a top trainer, because she's also a huge geek who's so passionate about Pokemon mythology that she's always staying up late researching at night until she falls asleep at her desk. In fact, in episode 3 of Pokemon Journeys, she states that even though she is the champion of Sinnoh, her strong point is actually her research. And in the video games, when she has us deliver an old charm to her grandmother, we find out that her love of myths and folklore actually runs in the family. So on top of how cool it is to be amazing at battles and archaeology, the extra depth humanizes Cynthia and makes her interesting to talk to. But her non-physical appeal doesn't even stop there, because Cynthia has all kinds of personality quirks that add to her charm. For example, in Pokemon Platinum, she also mentions how much she loves the piano, which explains her epic pre-battle theme, and in the Pokemon Adventures manga, she loves cycling and racing with her Garchomp. Especially in the anime where she gets the most development, Cynthia moves with confidence and grace. She has a strong presence that commands attention and respect. And who can forget her iconic tagline, her trouble choosing between ice cream flavors, how she likes to massage her Garchomp, or how she brutally shuts down Alder during her cameo in the Black and White series.
What say we forget the tournament and grab some lunch?
I think you'll be dining alone.
So on top of being scientifically attractive, Cynthia has all these non-physical characteristics that make her an even more charming character. Now, Cynthia's got power and Cynthia's got charm, but the final two ingredients take things to the next level. And ingredient number 3 is her relationships. Because even though Cynthia would still be one of the most popular Pokemon characters if she was just strong and attractive, it's her relationships with the cast of the manga, anime, and games that truly sets her apart from other characters. Firstly, in the Diamond and Pearl video games, aside from the champion battle, Cynthia shows up multiple times to teach us about the myths and folklore of Sinnoh. And in Pokemon Platinum, she also guides us through the Distortion World to battle Giratina, plus she gives out HMs as well as a Togepi egg. And yet that's nothing compared to her role in the anime, where her influence on the main characters is so much bigger, and she also plays a much more active role in the fight between good and evil. For example, while she doesn't fight Team Galactic directly in the Diamond and Pearl video games, in the anime she crushes Saturn and shows up at the Spear Pillar to protect Ash, his friends, and the Lake Guardians. She also teams up with the heroes in the Black and White series to help save Unova from Giovanni and the forces of nature. And then she shows up again in Pokemon Journeys, where she rescues Ash and Go from an army of unknown and fights Team Galactic yet again in the Arceus Chronicles. But Cynthia isn't just a protector, she is also a mentor who inspires the next generation of trainers like Ash and Paul. And in the Diamond and Pearl anime, she does this not just by encouraging these guys, but by humiliating Paul and his entire team with a single Pokemon, to show the massive gap between a mid-tier trainer and a champion. This is huge since it not only gets Paul fired up, but it also motivates Ash by giving him a clear target to shoot for. And even after the Sinnoh League ends, Ash says that he'll continue to train hard so that one day he can battle Cynthia in the Champion League. But the best example of Cynthia's mentorship has to be how she helps push Iris from zero to hero. In the Black and White anime, Iris dreams of becoming a Dragon Master, so when Cynthia and her Garchomp turn up in Unova, she challenges Cynthia to a battle. And even though Cynthia's Garchomp easily overpowers Iris's Axew, Axew learns Giga Impact during the battle, and Cynthia encourages Iris to keep training. Next, during the Pokemon World Tournament Junior Cup, Cynthia helps Iris again by calming her disobedient Dragonite and telling it how it needs to cooperate with its trainer. Then, when Iris loses to Ash a couple rounds later, Cynthia explains that even though Dragonite not trusting Iris is holding the two of them back, they will become great partners once they strengthen their bond. Not only does Cynthia's advice help Iris and Dragonite get over their differences, but her impact on Iris, Dragonite, and Axew is a big part of the reason why Iris gets so much stronger and even becomes the champion of Unova, and then one of the strongest 8 trainers in the world. And the icing on the cake is how Cynthia returns for Iris's final chapter in the Ash Ketchum era star of the anime, as her opponent in the World Coronation Series Masters Tournament. Not to mention that 12 years after the end of the Diamond and Pearl series, she finally battles Ash in the tournament's semifinals, making his dream come true. In fact, as a rival and a mentor, Cynthia plays an even bigger role in the two series she cameos in than she does in the original Diamond and Pearl anime. And on that note, here's some food for thought. She shows up in 9 Diamond and Pearl episodes, 9 Black and White episodes, and a whopping 24 episodes in Pokemon Journeys, which means you could almost make an entire year's worth of the Pokemon anime just out of episodes featuring Cynthia. And let's be honest, nobody would complain about that, because Cynthia makes every one of these episodes better with mythology talk, battles, influence on characters and events, and new insights into her backstory. And that is the fourth ingredient of Cynthia's secret sauce: frequency. That is, the frequency of Cynthia's appearances throughout the Pokemon universe. See, while most supporting characters only make minor cameos in the anime and the games, Cynthia shows up again and again and again in meaningful ways. And on top of her many anime appearances, in addition to Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, and the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl remakes, Cynthia appears in 10 other main series Pokemon games. For example, in Heart Gold Soul Silver, she turns up after you take Arceus to the ruins of Alph, where you get warped to the Sinnoh ruins and she helps you catch a Palkia or Dialga. And in Black and White, Cynthia is curious about the abyssal ruins near Undella Town, so she stays at her friend Caitlin's house during spring and summer, where she shocks unsuspecting players with an epic secret boss battle. Plus, in Black and White 2, in addition to staying at the villa in spring and summer, she also competes in the Champions League of the Pokemon World Tournament. And in Pokemon Sun, Moon, Ultra Sun, and Ultra Moon, she even shows up at the Battle Tree on Pony Island in Alola. Cynthia also has a big presence in Masters EX, the TCG, merchandise, various collaboration projects, and of course, various Pokemon manga. What's great is how each of these mediums adds to her character. And while we already mentioned Cynthia's expanded role in the anime, she also gets entirely new storylines in more than one official Pokemon manga. For example, in the Pokemon Adventures manga's Diamond and Pearl saga, she launches an attack on the Team Galactic Eterna building to rescue Rad Rickshaw, the owner of Eterna City's bicycle shop. Then, in the Platinum saga, she goes through a training arc to redeem herself for failing to take down Cyrus in Diamond and Pearl. Since back then she was so thirsty for revenge on Cyrus after he attacked Celestic Town that her rage blinded her into making Garchomp use an attack it hadn't mastered yet, Draco Meteor. And when the attack flops, Cyrus gets away. So after harshly criticizing Cynthia for her failure, Cynthia's grandmother ends up training Cynthia and Garchomp until they finally master the attack, just in time to defeat Giratina at the end of the Platinum arc. There's also a manga series not many people know about, Diamond and Pearl Adventure, where a much more colorful version of Cynthia even battles Mitsumi, that universe's unique version of Dawn, in the Pokemon League tournament near the end of the series. Expanded storylines like this add even more depth to Cynthia's character, and the fact that she just keeps getting these frequent appearances that are always fun and meaningful gives her a way bigger long-term impact than almost any other Pokemon character. And with that, we've got power, charm, relationships, and frequency in the Cynthia secret sauce, and the Cynthia secret sauce is why Pokemon fans love Cynthia.